One company that has truly been at the centre of digital transformation is SAP. Since becoming the sole CEO of Europe's largest software group in 2020, Klein has been working hard to help clients digitally transform and handle disruptions caused by the pandemic. He's joined now by my colleague, Karen Cho. Karen.
Jeff, thank you very much for that. Can I just say one of the most common terms used on the back of the pandemic has been the new normal. The other has been digital acceleration. And I want to pick up on the latter with Klein. Christian, thank you so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure catching up with you, and we appreciate your time here at this special event for CNBC. I want to ask you about the journey that many corporates have been on. Often business can be resistant to change, but during the pandemic, many were forced to just rethink digital solutions that applied to workforces, the hybrid flexible models we've seen, supply chains, and dealing with customers. But now as CEOs hone those strategies, what would you say to those CEOs about getting the next phase right and capturing growth?
Yeah, first of all, nice to see you again, Karen, and thanks for having me. I mean, absolutely. Also, during the pandemic, many of our customers, many CEOs reached out and told me, Christian, we have to flip our business model overnight. I was just yesterday in Switzerland, talked to one of the largest retailer there, and they actually flipped with SAP their complete business model to commerce. They actually redesigned their supply chain to enable home delivery. They asked themselves, what kind of commercial offers do the consumers expect tomorrow? And you said it right, also the future of work is of course a big topic. And I believe also in talking to many CEOs around the globe, the future of work will look different than before the pandemic. And technology is a key enabler for that.
Christian, I want to ask you about your own transition. Early on, one of the first conversations we had before the pandemic, when you first took over as CEO, was about SAP's own performance. And rival Larry Ellison over at Oracle was throwing down the challenge, saying he was coming for your customer base. Just in the last 24 hours, as they delivered earnings over at Oracle, they said that they'd declared victory, that they'd stolen some of your ERP clients, effectively because the ERP system has not been written for the cloud at SAP. So can I ask you, has SAP itself been too slow to evolve?
Yeah, actually, I guess one of our largest competitors likes to talk about SAP in their earnings, and I take this rather as a positive sign. If actually our competitors spend more time talking about SAP as their own performance. Look, in the ERP, we are by far the number one in the market. We are gaining market share every quarter. And also, we mentioned a few customers like British Telecom, Toshiba, and others, large Oracle ERP customers who now flipped over completely to SAP. Also, Google now announced their move to S/4HANA. So we are absolutely not too late. And actually, we are giving our customers now also a journey to the cloud, because it's not only about a technical migration, it's about a business transformation. And SAP really takes care of our customers from the front office into the supply chain, into finance. And we deliver on that on one platform in the cloud.
Christian, as we talk about digital solutions, often this goes in lockstep with ESG as companies are seeking to bolster their credentials and hit key targets. Some staggering numbers for the audience: 85% of the largest carbon emission intensive companies use SAP to manage their processes, and you yourself and the company have a target to be carbon neutral fairly soon by 2025. That's a good 20 years before your home country of Germany. What can you tell us about some of the company level targets versus countries? Do you think European countries are setting their targets too far out in the long grass?
Absolutely. There's a clear call to action for every country and for all enterprises around the globe to take sustainability very serious. And look, what we are doing is not only to say our enterprise needs to be carbon neutral in 2 years from now. Actually, what we are saying, we want to enable all our customers to become a sustainable enterprise very soon in the future. And how we are doing that? Actually, already today, before we are actually developing the first code, we are already designing our solutions to embed the carbon footprint in our solutions, to see how sustainable a product really is, to measure the carbon footprint across the supply chain. And we go one step further. With SuccessFactor, we are measuring the diversity and inclusion, because you can't act on what you can't measure. And this is what we are now doing. We are embedding sustainability across our solutions, because we also want to enable our customers to become sustainable enterprises. And what just recently at Sapphire, we announced our first innovations exactly in that space.
Christian, as we talk about a new way of doing business, I want to ask you about the outlook then for Concur. This is the travel expenses business. I know you've been somewhat optimistic, but predictions now from the likes of Bill Gates that you'll see a 50% plunge in the longer term for some business travel. Others are suggesting a 35% slump. Do you need to reset those expectations as companies try to hit those ESG targets and lower their expenses at the same time around business travel?
I mean, for sure you're right that we don't see, the amount of business travel, after the pandemic than before the pandemic. But I'm actually not worried at all about our Concur business, because it's the market-leading solutions. Our customers, love the solution, they adopt it, and they will also use it going forward. So we will win market share, and our Concur business will do great in the future. But you're absolutely right. I mean, when I see it, with SAP, our people also now will work differently in the future. I mean, when I look, at my day-to-day in the pandemic, I also enjoyed home office from time to time. The moments when you have to think alone. But there are also moments where you want to meet important clients, where you want to meet important partners, and you want to look into them, face by face, and also, doing business together on site. So it will be a mix. It will be a hybrid workplace going forward. And we are absolutely equipped for that. And with regard to Concur, I'm absolutely sure the solution will also do great in the future.
Just quickly, Christian, before I take a question from the audience, we do have one coming through, but I want to ask you about that hybrid working model, because we've seen very aggressive moves by the likes of Goldman Sachs, a bank with very well-noted killer instinct. They are pressing their workers to come back to the office. Others are taking a more flexible hybrid approach like SAP. Is there going to be a difference in performance, though, where those who've demanded workers come back outperform?
I mean, we are absolutely convinced when we are trusting our employees, they will do what is right for SAP, and they will do what is right for our customers. And we listened very carefully to our employees, and they told us, that, in the pandemic, there are of course moments where home office was actually great and will be also good in the future. But we have also cultural differences, across the globe. People feel different also about the commute to the office. Or if we, look into this function by function, when you code software, you have to be sometimes in the office, go together to the design board. But when you're working in sales and consulting, you need this flexibility, and you are anyway very often out there. So our pledge to flex is for us the absolutely right model going forward, and we believe actually that this will also help our performance as a company in a tremendous way.
Right. Christian, we've got a question coming through from the audience. Dwight has sent one in, and it's a terrific question, so I'll pose that to you. Which industries are lagging on the digitization curve, and what should governments do to help adoption of digital models?
Yeah, to the governments I'm talking to, I'm always telling them, be a front runner. Because I see huge differences when I watch across the globe how digitized already certain countries are, how many services you can do online. And then I see other countries which are actually, far below. And this is something, where we also want to enable every government around the world to provide, the best services to their citizens. And then with regard to the industries, obviously in the pandemic, retail was one of the industry who was forced to change their business model. These were many customers who came to us and switched to commerce, redesigned their manufacturing. Now we see, how disruptive COVID was for some of the supply chains in automotive, for example. This is where we are now creating the world's largest business network to connect our customers to other suppliers, to really make sure we are also creating resilient supply chain. And these are only a few examples where the digitization has really advanced during the pandemic.
Yes, resilience is certainly key in that supply chain as we talk about the auto industry with the global chip supply problem. Thank you so much for joining us today. We do appreciate your insights. Klein, the CEO of SAP.